And just like there are Yemeni mercenaries who support the United States and the Zionist entity, there are free Americans who righteously support the Yemeni people as they resist. And we again reiterate that we don't consider ourselves in a state of war against the American people, but rather against the ruling Zionist elite in Washington that has wrought disasters and misery on numerous nations and their privation on the American people themselves.
That was an interview between Max Blumenthal and a Yemeni representative, and it's so interesting that this man says that the Yemeni people are waging a war against the Zionist elites in Washington because the Zionist elites in Washington are waging a war against the American people as we speak, dissolving our constitutional freedoms and threatening to withhold federal funding, aka our tax money, from scientific and medical research for our benefit, unless we pledge unconditional allegiance to a foreign state. Absolute madness. Welcome to another episode of Political Newbie. I'm Noah Clark, a formerly ignorant, average citizen who's simply trying to make sense of the mess, and I thank you for joining me. Can I just start off by saying that I'm absolutely stunned how far the Zionist elites are willing to go in order to expose their hand as the one that's choking the life source out of our country. They're going after our medical and scientific research, and RFK and Bhattacharya are helping them. Let's start with the truth of the matter, okay? Science has always faced attacks through censorship, political pressure, and corruption. We saw it clear as day during the COVID era. Our doctors, our scientists, our independent voices were silenced for questioning the official narratives about the virus's origins and treatment. But never before did the government threaten jail time for those who dare to speak out against a foreign state. But here we are. Today's assault on science will cost you everything, plus your funding, your career, your freedom, etc. Unknown. Who knows what else it'll cost you? Now let's be crystal clear about something. The government is literally threatening our institutions, not with their money, with our money. We should have the last word with how our money is spent. We did not elect free speech Donald Trump to go into the White House and cancel free speech. Not on behalf of domestic interests, and certainly not on behalf of foreign interests. Right now, polls say that 85% of the American public is opposed to our unconditional support and funding of foreign states. Doesn't it stand to reason then that our government should be aligned with our interests? You, me, and all of the 347 million of us? Yeah, so that's it. We're no longer the United States of America. We're something else entirely. If you made it this far, I'd love to see you in the comments. If not, leave a thumbs up and let me know that you were here. Thank you so much. On April 21st, 2025, literally last week, NIH, the largest funder of biomedical research in the world, dropped a new policy on its website. The new policy threatens researchers, universities, and hospitals with civil and criminal penalties, like jail time, if they don't agree that Israel must be immune to the law and immune to any form of criticism. When it comes to issues of Israel, all we're allowed to do is smile. Welcome to science's darkest era, and to the battle for American soul, as we must face the cold, dark reality that Qatar has way too much influence over our country, and we must take a stand and reject it. For some reason that I have not yet discovered, Qatar has been able to convince our government to make it illegal to boycott Israel in 38 of our states. Guys, they're winning. Okay? Look at these states. And Republicans are leading the charge. 25 Republican states, 13 Democrat states. The ones in bold that you see here, Louisiana, Maryland, Kentucky, New Hampshire, New York, South Dakota, Wisconsin, were enacted through executive order. So there's still hope. They can be reversed by executive order. So at least 7 states, there's hope for. The others, not so lucky. New York, my state, joined the list of treasonous states that colluded with Qatar to crush political speech on behalf of Israel through Governor Andrew Cuomo, the guy currently running for another term. The same guy who encouraged us to boycott North Carolina and Mississippi because these two states passed a bathroom bill requiring people to use public restrooms matching the sex on their birth certificate, not their gender identity, is the same guy who was foaming at the mouth when institutions wanted to boycott a foreign state. Let that sink in. Okay. Boycott American government? Check. Boycott your fellow citizens? Why not? Boycott American businesses? Knock yourself out. Boycott American soldiers? Anything you want. Just don't dream of boycotting Israel, or else the wrath of Qatar will be upon us. That's where we are, guys. And you know it's bad when free speech absolutist RFK Jr., my hero, and I literally mean he's my hero, he's the reason why I'm here right now on this podcast, comes out with this tweet. Anti-Semitism, like racism, is a spiritual and moral malady that sickens societies and kills people with lethalities comparable to history's most deadly plagues. In recent years, the censorship and false narratives of woke cancel culture, I don't know if he's talking about the Me Too movement or BLM or the anti-Semitism woke cancel culture, have transformed our great universities into greenhouses for this deadly and virulent pestilence. Making America healthy means building communities of trust and mutual respect based on speech freedom and open debate. So this last line here, where he's encouraging speech freedom and open debate, is canceling out everything that he said before that line. This is the nature and the character of Zionist logic. The entire argument somehow cancels itself out immediately. Just in real time, it just cancels itself out, because that's exactly what this tweet just did. Basically, what he's saying here is that it's a malady of the mind, anti-Semitism or anti-Israelism, which is also what Jordan Peterson said on Joe Rogan a couple of days ago when he mass diagnosed us as psychopathic pretenders. This tweet was about cutting funding to universities who allowed anti-genocide protests on campus, because essentially what the universities are doing is encouraging the spread of a mental contagion that causes anti-genocide symptoms like rejecting apartheid, denouncing occupation, abhorring collective civilian punishment via slaughter and starvation. And we don't want people to be suffering from these kinds of mental maladies, right? God forbid we have an anti-genocide mental pandemic. So we've learned our lesson from COVID. Vaccinate the universities, and defunding them is the vaccine. I'm going to play you a clip from Glenn Greenwald's interview with Li Fang, an American investigative journalist known for his work on how money and organized interest groups influence public policy.
What these rules, the NIH rules, do is that they prohibit only one form of boycott, only one form of divestment, and that is against the state of Israel. Over the last 10 years, since 2015, we've seen a number of state legislatures enact very similar laws, the so-called anti-BDS bills.
Those were the 38 states that I was talking to you about earlier. And all of this started in 2015, so about 10 years ago, when Qatar influenced our government to enact anti-BDS laws. There are literally only 12 noble states left, hanging on by a thread. If you live in one of these states, you are still part of America, and I am jealous of you. Here's the exact wording of the new NIH policy, okay? Just in case you didn't believe me, or just in case you didn't see it. Recipients of this NIH funding must comply with all applicable federal anti-discrimination laws material to the government's payment decisions for purposes of yada yada. Definitions, as used in this clause, include DEI and discriminatory prohibited boycott, which means refusing to deal, cutting commercial relations, or otherwise limiting commercial relations specifically with Israeli companies, or with companies doing business in or with Israel, or authorized by, licensed by, or organized under the laws of Israel. So you're disqualified from receiving funding if you operate any DEI programs, or if you boycott any Israeli companies or any companies associated with Israel. They didn't even try to create some cover and say Israeli and American companies. They just said specifically Israeli. Okay. The DEI clause is also ridiculous because making an exception for Israel is literally DEI. I'm going to issue a disclaimer right now. Please be aware that it is anti-Semitic to even allude to the concept that Israel and Zionists have complete control over our country, because it's simply not true. Because the entity pulling the strings of our government to defend and protect Zionism is Qatar. Scientific and medical research is the heart and blood of our society, so we are currently at critical level, all because Qatar is desperate for us to go to war with Iran.
But these NIH rules that were released last night and are now enacted nationally, the NIH is the largest funder of biomedical research in the world. Really touches every corner of our research institutes, almost every major university, every major kind of medicine and other kind of biomedical research effort.
To echo what Li Fang states here, medical and scientific research is not just the heart of our country, it is literally the heart of the world. And NIH funding is a life source of that. How much power and influence do the Qataris truly have if they can arrest the heart of civilization as we know it? Li Fang.
Kind of legal code that's attached to this civil rights announcement, that's the False Claims Act. So folks who are found in violation of this certification, they could face civil and criminal penalties for running afoul of these boycotting rules.
So I didn't really understand what this part meant at first, so I did a little digging. Basically, the NIH, under Qatari guidance, is making sure that they close any potential loopholes by attaching one of the government's most powerful legal weapons, the False Claims Act, FCA, to this new NIH civil rights policy. And the goal is to make it as draconian, as fascist, and as authoritarian as humanly possible. If they even sniff that you're going against Israel, they can demand you return the funding, triple if they feel like it, and in some cases, jail time. So now that the definition of anti-Semitism is constantly expanding to include any criticism of Israel, it makes total sense that anti-Semitism has seen an exponential boost over the last year. 25 incidents per day just for things like wearing a keffiyeh. I even heard that it's extended to using the watermelon emoji now. I mean, watermelon used to be a black people thing, but now they're banning it because it's a Palestinian thing. It's crazy. It's crazy. And people think that there is a black on white race issue in America. Come on. There are no calls to boycott white businesses to protect black people's feelings. During BLM, no universities or medical research were defunded on behalf of black people's feelings. And people make DEI sound like the government is giving special treatment to blacks and minorities, when elites are the ones who have always gotten special treatment, even when they are beyond incompetent. I mean, think about the President Macron of France, who's like literally no qualifications. And what is Pete Hegseth doing? I mean, I don't know how you feel about Pete Hegseth, and I'm currently writing an episode on him because he seems like a DEI hire to me. What are his qualifications for such a ginormous role, a position? And while we're on the topic of DEI, I think there has been enough noticing going on that we can clearly see that identity politics is a massive distraction. Yet there are still enough people falling for it. And a lot of those people are within my community. The black community. If we live in a diverse country, there will inevitably be interracial violence, intersex violence, as there will be same-sex and same-race violence. The proportionality of the violence will vary from time to time based on the zeitgeist, based on socioeconomic struggles, based on policies that are designed to oppress certain communities via education, food, health, etc., based on politically motivated instigation by paid actors, etc., right? But this mass noticing that is sweeping our country as our constitutional rights are being attacked should help us see the patterns more clearly. The policies and the threads that are orchestrating this division, this tension, how we're being influenced to see things racially rather than from a human-to-human perspective. how we're being influenced to hate men or hate women based on tropes rather than on toxic human traits that are not specific to sex. I can go on and on. We have human issues rather than this weird sex, gender, or race issue that we keep focusing on. And I sincerely believe that we will never be able to properly root out the disparities and the evils influencing and shaping our society if we don't exorcise Zionism from our culture. And I don't mean Jewishness, I mean Zionism. Most of the Zionists in our country are Christian Zionists, and Zionism is not Judaism. Zionism is a superiority complex, much like Nazism, only worse.
This is not just coming from the pro-Israel Jewish community. There are many Christian Zionist groups that are very in support of Israel, but in any case, very powerful advocacy groups that have pushed the government in this direction. They want kind of lockstep support of Israeli policies and Israel's war in Gaza. They can't tolerate any dissent. That's why we've seen a wave of laws over the last few years passing the IHRA, which redefines anti-Semitism to include a number of provisions, one of which is describing the state of Israel as racist, that can now land you into some prison time in some states because they've updated the hate speech codes in places like Georgia and Arizona, and they've attempted to pass federal legislation to that effect as well.
So I'm going to leave you on that note, but before I do, I want to play one last clip where it seems to me that almost the last bastion of mainstream media, 60 Minutes, is now being supervised and, I don't know, possibly going to be censored. Listen to this.
In tonight's Last Minute, a note on Bill Owens, who until this past week was executive producer of 60 Minutes. He was our boss. Bill was with CBS News nearly 40 years, 26 years at 60 Minutes. He covered the world, covered combat, the White House. His was a quest to open minds, not close them. If you've ever worked hard for a boss because you admired him, then you understand what we've enjoyed here. Bill resigned Tuesday. It was hard on him and hard on us, but he did it for us and you. Stories we pursued for 57 years are often controversial. Lately, the Israel-Gaza war and the Trump administration. Bill made sure they were accurate and fair. He was tough that way. But our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories has been blocked, but Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires. No one here is happy about it, but in resigning, Bill proved...
Very scary times. But on a positive note, in less than 24 hours, 86,000 people engaged positively with this post. So fingers crossed that we are all waking up and we will vote against Zionism moving forward and reject it outright. If you made it this far, I'd love to see you in the comments. If not, leave a thumbs up and let me know that you were here. Thank you so much.